Hello, everyone. There's just a lot of folks joining the meeting right now, so I'm going to just welcome everybody first so we can let everybody log in from the lobby. And thank you so much for coming today. We're so excited to have you at our webinar talking about Verifind. There's a lot of faces and names that I noticed that registered for the webinar. So for those that don't know me, my name is Christine Jameson. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for the Modulex Group, and I'm here with my colleagues, Maria Saad, who is the Digital Marketing Manager for Modulex Group at corporate, and Ethan Laronde, who is the Marketing and Sales Support Specialist based in the US market and overseas Canada as well. So again, thank you so very much for coming to our webinar today. So we are going to kick it off and tell you a little bit about what Verifind is. So Verifind is a solution that we designed to validate signage and wayfinding performance. It helps us close the gap between what we intend and what actually happens on site and gives us a way to answer that question with evidence and not assumptions. So Verifind, we partnered with Toby, which is the global leader in eye tracking technology and have been the global leader for the past 20 years. Toby's research team helped give us the information that we needed to develop some key performance indicators that Ethan will talk about a little bit later in the presentation. So with eye tracking and studying gaze patterns, that means we can observe where people actually look as they navigate spaces. So it's not about where we think they will look. It's not where the plan says they should look. It's where their eyes actually go. And from that data, we start to see patterns and we can identify points of confusion or hesitation or misinformation. We see behavioral patterns that explain why people get lost or essentially move through a space confidently. So those insights are then translated into some evidence-based observations, and that has the power to help teams improve their wayfinding effectiveness in a very practical way. So Verifind is not about opinion and it's not about preference. It's about understanding behavior and using that to make smarter design decisions. So Verifind isn't about adding more signage to a plan. It's about making sure that the signage we have in the plan actually works. So what is Verifind's role in a project? Verifind is very clear about what it does and what it doesn't do. So Verifind is not a design or branding like critique. So we're not critiquing aesthetic. We're not evaluating whether something looks good, whether it's on brand, or whether it meets a visual preference. That's a different expertise and a different conversation. Verifind and the team that drives Verifind, we're data people, and we're looking to provide analytics and data to support your design. So Verifind focuses on observed human behavior. So by showing us what people actually notice, what they miss, and where they struggle as they move through a space. This is about navigation, decision-making, and not subjective design preferences. Another important point is that Verifind's insights are based on real journeys in real environments. So they're not subjective opinion or individual interpretation. We're not asking, what do we think should work, but we're actually observing what actually happens. And I think it's important to also clarify that Verifind is not a compliance audit and it's not a certification compliance audit. It's not predictive simulation. It doesn't replace standards, and it's not guessing how people might behave, but it's actually showing us how they actually do behave. And this really does matter because we're basing decisions on evidence rather than assumptions. So Verifind helps us reduce uncertainty, where Verifind adds value is not by redesigning, but validating and forming smarter decisions for our designers. So the motivation to create Verifind was a pretty simple one. We at Modulex felt like the wayfinding and signage industry traditionally relied heavily on experience, best practice, and design intent. And there wasn't always a consistent way to validate performance. And, we did a lot of soul searching within ourselves to say, we also are a part of that. We are also making assumptions based on what we know and our best practice, but is what we know and our best practice always correct? So we saw a need for standardizing it, providing some evidence-based approach to validating wayfinding effectiveness, and not just whether or not the system was designed thoughtfully, but whether it was actually working once people were in the environment. So another key motivator for us was the gap that we were seeing between the design intent and the real world experience. So Verifind supports clients in validating the performance of an existing wayfinding system and not just the original concept or drawings. The distinction we felt was really important because we all know that real people don't experience plans, they experience spaces. So that was a really important part for us. So without evidence, a lot of times design decisions are based on individual interpretation and best practice again. We wanted to be able to create a way where design and operational decisions can be based on people behave, not how we expect them to behave. So, and the bigger goal ultimately behind Verifind is quite simple. We just really want to create ultimately better wayfinding experience for visitors to a space and supporting the best possible outcomes for wayfinding design. So when the decisions are evidence-based supported, then wayfinding becomes clearer and our spaces work better. And that's what we want for the people that are using them. So it wasn't created to add complexity. It was created to add, remove uncertainty essentially, and add value and additional clarity. So before we move on from this slide, I have to brag because that's a pretty exciting thing that we won back in 2024 when we pre-launched Verifind at the SCGD Nexpo. We won the Best New Resource Award, which we were really excited about. As we were in pre-launch stages at that point, we had a lot of work to do to get it to the launch place where it is today. So at the time, when we pre-launched Verifind at the Nexpo, there was the initial response and the initial feedback that we were getting from a lot of the individuals that were interested in Verifind was commercially, from an expense standpoint, it just wasn't working with what they needed. So for the past year and a bit, this team here has certainly been working very, very hard and working with our tech partner, Toby, to develop an experience which was a little bit more commercially viable. So we're able to, go into an environment, work with a client, and be able to provide them a price that's something that is a little bit more palatable than it was before. So I think we can all recognize that there's definitely a cost to poor wayfinding. So the team did some research, and there's some pretty staggering statistics when you're looking at the cost of poor wayfinding in different sectors. So, I mean, I think in transportation, when we're looking in airports, all of us can certainly relate to that experience when you're trying to navigate a space and you're trying to get through an airport. Maria, I just lost the presentation. Thank you. Sorry, Marie's driving the presentation. So, yeah, so from a transportation and large venue perspective, we can certainly understand that that would be a big impact. Missing your gate, missing your flights, trying to navigate through a space. And certainly when you're, English isn't your first language and you're trying to navigate different airports. So we saw that that certainly was a staggering statistic. In hospitality as well, because, in hospitality, certainly from a hotel perspective, reviews are a really big thing. And that's a lot of, hotel operators are really, their personal KPIs are all around hotel reviews. So having, the hospitality industry impacted by negative reviews, because there could be a trigger stacking of not great experiences, wayfinding being one of them. And then, of course, healthcare. I think that's one of the ones that we can all relate to is how many times we've been in a hospital trying to navigate our way. When you look at the statistics of the amount of staff hours that have been, just in the US alone, dedicated to trying to direct people to the right location, the percentage of patients that arrive late due to poor navigation, and then the missed appointments that stack up as a result of people not able to find their way. And of course, in the education sector, when you have so many different cultures and so many different languages coming to an educational institution, and the confusion and the stress that it's added to that, based on individuals not being able to find their way. So Verifind, it was created to address some problems. Obviously, when the designs are approved and the execution drifts, and that happens certainly a lot of times not intentionally, but oftentimes the plans versus what is actually built, things change within the plan. So Verifind helps with that. Sometimes errors are discovered a little bit late in the process and they could be too difficult to fix. Renovations, my goodness, hospitals are notorious for this, of changing departments all of the time. So the original wayfinding consultancy or scheme that was developed for that hospital could be completely different now because, departments change often. So Verifind is put in place to help address that gap. So we can go in, we can help with the audit and be able to provide a better wayfinding experience with the designer to the client. Now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Maria.
Hi, everyone. I'm Maria and part of the Verifind team, as Christine said. And well, essentially, Verifind serves, first of all, anyone who's responsible for a physical space that has a wayfinding system that is either failing or causing confusion or people to get lost. So think of hospitals, airports, university, even office buildings, and any space that has a wayfinding system in place. It's also very useful for organizations or institutions that have gone through a recent renovation and maybe the new layout doesn't necessarily match the existing wayfinding system. And finally, essentially, anyone who's decision maker or responsible for a place and they care not only about compliance, but also about generally offering an accessible, inclusive, and just overall good experience to their visitors and guests. So the way the Verifying study works is that we work with real people in real time in a real physical space. We make sure to, when we're recruiting participants, we make sure that they match the demographical needs of the client. And the way this study works is that the participant is instructed to find or to follow a specific journey within a place while wearing the glasses. After the participant finishes the journey, our team will sit with them and we will rewatch the recording with them to first of all confirm the information or validate the information we saw on the video through the glasses, and to also conduct a post journey qualitative questionnaire where we complement the information with questions like, for example, was it easy to find your way? Did you felt confused or frustrated at any point, or was it rather easy to find your way to this place? And that way we gather our hard quantitative data and our qualitative information. So during the participant journey, as I said, the participant is going to be wearing the glasses, following the journey, and there's going to be someone in our team following them as well, of course, from an appropriate distance. And there's also going to be someone watching the live recording. And we're going to be noticing things like if they looked at the signage, how long did they look at the signage? If there was a point where it seemed like they were confused or they were hesitating, or even if they completely missed a sign or information on a sign. And with this, I would like to share now. So please let me know if you're able to see. Wait. So I can't see anybody, so I'm trusting you
Yes,
can see
it's
my
up.
screen. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I'm going to share a screen. So just for context, this was the first Verifying study we conducted in a hospital in Denmark. The participant was instructed to register at the reception of the hospital and then find her way to room G318. After she finished the journey, our team conducted the qualitative questionnaire that I was mentioning before. And now I'm going to show you what happened. So I just want to mention that usually the videos from the glasses are really good quality, but Teams makes it a bit choppy. So I'm just going to go back here a little bit because this video, it's super interesting. Oh, okay, this works. This video is super interesting because as you were able to see, hopefully on the video, she sees the sign and then she goes to the left. But on the left, there's nothing but elevators and a restricted area that she cannot access. In reality, room G318 was one floor above, but because the elevator sign and the stairs symbol or icon over here are so far away from the room number, as you can see on the red dot, she completely missed it. She didn't even see it or acknowledge that this was here. She just saw the room number and went to the left. So we conducted the qualitative interview, and that's how we learned that she saw the room number, she saw the arrow, and that's what she thought she should be going. So, and I want to show you a second video. So this one was conducted by our team in the Georgian College in Ontario, Canada. So in this case, the participant was trying to find a particular room within the university campus. So I'm just going to show you. So at this point, the participant is in a hallway trying to identify a sign or any type of guide as to where to go. And it's very interesting because at this point, he finds himself in an intersection with three different ways he should be going. And we see him struggling, looking at different signs, trying to figure out where he's supposed to go. So with this information, I'm gonna give it to my colleague Ethan, who's going to explain in depth the KPIs we use to calculate the performance rating of a wayfinding system.
Thanks, Maria. So during the entire Verifind study, one of the key things we do as a team is analyze the recordings to identify several things. The first being any point of confusion or direction that Maria showed, often associated with participants stopping and looking at signage or just pausing in their overall journey. We also look for signage or cues in the wayfinding journey that might have been completely missed altogether. And we also look at the emotional response and the overall effort, especially when discussing video insight with the participants on their decisions during a study. And again, Verifind focuses on how people behave. It's not about the aesthetics of the design or how nice your signage looks in an architectural environment. We're purely looking at how the people behave. And part of a Verifind study is sitting down with the participants to truly understand why they made the decisions that they did. Hearing how they felt, what their reasoning was, where issues came up are all elements crucial to the video insights as Maria showed. And this allows us to link some of the observed behavior to the environment and the overall signage involved with the study. So the first KPI that we're going to talk about today is visitor experience and effort score. So we have three different KPIs that we use. We use visitor experience and effort score, signage attention score, and the navigational efficiency score. So for visitor experience and effort score, uh, this one is a kind of a combination. It's a hybrid between a qualitative and a quantitative metric where after you do a preset journey, we'll ask some general questions about the journey, how they felt during it, which is a bit more qualitative. But we also have general questions that we have curated that have a scoring system built into it. So it makes it more of a quantitative metric as well. And we would sit and discuss some of the questions in the journey with the video playing in real time to really understand the decisions that were made. And we split this up into two different categories. We have emotional experience and then mental effort. So emotional experience is anything about the ease of navigation, anything related to stress and anxiety and the overall confidence. And the mental effort is anything based on signage comprehension and the confidence in their decision making based on the wayfinding in their journey. And the second KPI we use is something called signage attention score. And to put it simply, it just looks at which signs along a journey are being seen and which are not. And the information we would receive from the eye tracking glasses would be based on the biometric gaze data, showing where attention is directed, and just as important, where it's not being directed. And this is a quantitative metric, so it would be captured based on the real journeys. It would be completely reviewed by our data analysts at Verifind, and there would be no bias from our team because participants either look at the sign or they don't look at the sign at all. And by doing this analysis, it allows us to see if the signage of a wayfinding in a specific place is giving the participants or if it is not. And then the third KPI we use is something called navigational efficiency score. And this one answers the question of how long it actually takes someone unfamiliar to a space to reach a destination. And this is also a quantitative metric. It would be recorded by a field survey lead on our team, which Christine will talk about some of the roles later. And we would double check that the video ensures accuracy with the timing. And this showcases any kind of interactions with the wayfinding system on a preset journey. It demonstrates the effects of challenges or obstacles in a wayfinding journey to a user. And the good thing about NES is we take into consideration that this is a human-centric approach. So our calculations consider different demographics who might walk at different paces and just different people that might interpret signage at different paces. And the goal of this KPI is to ensure that we're looking at the speed which participants take to reach a destination lines up or hopefully lines up with whoever manages a certain space to their ideal time. And now we're going to talk about the Verifind report. So once the Verifind study is complete, we've done all the calculations, we've done the study, we've talked to all the participants, we will provide a document which will include the following information. The first being an introduction to the team that will be working, and the lead that you will interact with during the entire project, the scope of the project, and the preset journey that will be studied, as well as the signs that were analyzed during the study. And for this, I'll also mention that you can have more than one preset journey. You can have multiple. We'll just organize in such a way so you can see each journey that we will analyze, as well as the signage in each one. We will also include an overview of the defined KPIs, and this will include what they mean and how they're integral to the study that is being done. We will also talk about, with the 3 KPIs that I mentioned, they will each have their own individual score. And then with those 3, an overall score for one of the preset journeys. And then the most important part of this is we will provide our observations, which will be a combination of evidence from KPIs, feedback from participants, and then the video insights, ensuring that all the observations we give you are evidence-based and not based on any subjectivity from ourselves. And this is so that you can make better decisions when you want to improve the wayfinding in an area that may not be working at when you are doing your wayfinding. And then finally, we'll just have a verdict summarizing the entire project and anything important to highlight or note with this project. So now I'm going to pass it on to Christine, where she will share some of the commercial ways to use Verifind and some of the baseline pricing.
Sure. Thank you, Ethan and Maria. So, I mean, there's a variety of ways of leveraging Verifind. And I noticed on the list of attendees here on the call, some of you are from environmental graphic design agencies. Some of you are Modulex account reps. Some of you are clients of Modulex. So there's a variety of different ways that Verifind can help you. And I think, ultimately, if the client asks for a wayfinding study within an existing built environment, that is a great way of introducing Verifind in its purest form to be able to help you with your recommendations back to the client if they're asking for that. For those that are at an EGD firm, we have no problem white labeling the report for you. So if you're looking at putting something into a report that you give to a client, you can contact us and say, hey, look, for the interest of this project, we would like to white label it under our EGD agency name. We're fine with that. Really, the ultimate goal for Verifind is to be able to improve wayfinding overall, not just for Modulex. So also offering it to your client as an audit for implemented systems as identified. So, we might be able to offer them an opportunity. You're in discussion with the client. They're noting that some of their wayfinding is breaking down in certain locations. So that certainly is an option for anybody looking to value add it. If you're trying to set yourself up different from your competitor, you're going after certain projects and you are in a competitive situation, Verifind is a wonderful way of differentiating yourself from your comp set. And then also too, one of the things that is probably a little bit not controversial, but maybe a little bit risky, is to audit your own wayfinding after implementation. So if you have a client and you've worked on an implementation for them, one of the ways that you can further and deepen your client relation is to say, look, I am going to challenge our own findings. At the end of the implementation, we're going to send in the Verifind team and we're going to audit ourselves to make sure that what we designed for you was the best possible outcome. And if we've decided and looked through the observations and the analytics that Verifind has given us that there are some problem spots or some pain points, we, Mr. or Miss Client, will be able to go in and we're going to take care of readjusting those signs at our cost and not at yours. So there's different creative ways that you can use Verifind. And I think that the best opportunity is to brainstorm with us, whether that's yourselves, with you and your client. We're open to however you want that communication to be, but there's a number of different ways that you can include Verifind in discussions with your clients and your projects. So pricing is a bit complicated. So it's complicated because there's no two situations that are alike. And I don't want to come out and say, this is the rate of Verifind. Because a client, if it's an airport, you may need 30 journeys to discover, some of the wayfinding issues that you have. If you're a hospital that's just done a renovation and noticing that there's like some critical issues with your wayfinding, that's an entirely different scenario. There might be a 30-second journey that you're trying to audit versus a 10-second journey. So it's very difficult to give you baseline pricing. But what I can tell you is the rate of Verifind basically breaks down into, our day rate, of course, because we have the team. There's 4 of us. One of us not here today, but there's 4 of us on the Verifind team, and all 4 of us are involved in a study. So we help set up the study design, and if you're a Wayfind It user, that's an advantage to you because we use Wayfind It in order to develop our particular plan. So if you're a Wayfind It user, that's going to make life a little bit easier. If you're a sign agent user, we can probably navigate that too. We're not as familiar with sign agent as we are with Wayfind It, but we can help because all of those signs will already be plotted within your project. So that's already taking us a step ahead. We have fieldwork set up. So for example, if we know that we are going to be auditing in an airport, for example, we're going to need to be there a couple of days before to set up that journey and time it, discuss with the client how long the journey should take, so we can put that into our KPIs. So when we're measuring, we're knowing what we're measuring against. So there's the data collection, of course, because we get real people to do these journeys. It's not us, it's not the Verifind team that's going through it. We actually recruit people that are going to that particular built environment and say, hey, look at, this is what we're doing. We're conducting a survey. We could really, really use your help. Can you put these glasses on and be a part of the survey? And what we found is they're a lot more inclined to be a participant in the survey if there's a bit of an incentive. So what we've done in our previous surveys is given, either a $50 Amazon card or a Starbucks card or whatever. We've been able to do, get a lot more support when the client, or when the person rather has something in it for them. Then, of course, the data analysis and the presentation development. And that is something that is certainly, after all of the studying, the analysis that we provide. So the total cost of the project on demand, we'll definitely have to discuss. But what I can say to you is, if you call me up and say, I need pricing on a project, you're not going to wait days and days. That won't happen. I will ensure a very, very quick turnaround. The Verifind team and I will jump on a call. We will just brainstorm it. We will figure it out. We'll map it out, but we'll make sure that you get pricing back because, everybody's on a timeline. So finally, I'm just going to talk a little bit about how each one of these roles work, because it's pretty interesting, what technology has been able to do for us. So the Verifind team, depending on the scope of the project, all of us could be there or one of us could be there. And again, it really depends on the complexity of the project. So if it's a large scale airport, which we just recently we bid on, all of us would be there because there would be all of us needed to be feet on the ground. The wonderful world of the way it works with teams and with all of these virtual opportunities to be able to connect with our colleagues. If the study is a little bit more budget orientated and you need to sort of reduce your costs, then one of us will be there. And then the other 3 of us will be behind the scenes. And what's really interesting too is, through teams, we're able to do the quantitative insight. So we'll be able to do the interview with the participant after, ask them, about their journey, what the experience was like. We've already got the data because it's uploading real time from the glasses into the cloud. And the monitoring support individual is actually seeing the live view of what the person is seeing in real time. So what this individual does is, because sometimes we don't even realize that we've gone to a confusion point or a point of like where you're just not clear where you are in a space. You could be like that one particular scenario where the individual is moving through that college might not even recognize that they got to a point of confusion because we were just so used to those types of things of having to look around in our day-to-day life. So the person that is on the live monitoring to support can record that, note those things, note different sort of interesting observations that they're making about the person's journey to be able to feed it to the qualitative insights lead, who's the person that will be ultimately interviewing the candidate after their journey. So all 4 of us have a role. Our data analysts will certainly be crunching all of the numbers, and as a team, we will watch all of the recordings and really discuss it together. So the team is either all on site or one of us on site, depending on the complexity and budget that is available. So that's essentially Verifind in a nutshell. And I know that it took us 30 minutes, and we were hoping to get it done in 30 minutes. So I will do a question and answer session now. If you don't have any questions, feel free to drop off and go about your day. But thank you very, very much for spending time with us. If you are going to leave the call right now, really grateful. But if there are those that would like to ask any questions, by all means, we will be happy to answer. Oh, Mark Lightfoot. Go ahead, Mark. I think you can take yourself off mute, Mark.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. A brilliant presentation. Thank you very much. I was particularly interested in the slide, the cost of poor wayfinding. To know if you have references for all the data quoted. That's because that is really useful in the pre-sales and the sale, kind of the just helping people understand what not taking action, the cost of not taking any action, because these things everyone's experiencing this, I would say.
Yes, agreed, Mark. And we do have all the citations for these. One of the things that the team and I talked about earlier this morning before the webinar is we want to pull this into a little bit more of a white paper format. So you have all of these stats and that type of thing. So for the purpose of the presentation, we didn't include it, but we certainly do have it. So we'll make sure that you get a hold of that.
Particularly the financials. You mentioned billions and...
Yes, exactly. Certainly for healthcare. And that's been studied a lot. Yeah, I mean, the healthcare industry has definitely studied the cost of poor wayfinding. So we had a lot more ability to get metrics to support this. But yes, we'll make sure that you have that.
Okay. And the other question, I know you can't give a price because there's so many variables. But is there a sort of a baseline cost, a table stakes for implementing Verifind is always going to be around a certain number, and then depending on the size of the project, it will scale accordingly. So, sort of no less than $2,500 is what a Verifind project costs, just to give us a sense of what it is that we're talking about in terms of quantum.
Yeah, absolutely there is. And there's a couple of variables in that too. So also how we have divided the team is we have two people in Europe and then two of us in North America. So we try to spread up the team that way because we want to be able to reduce travel costs as much as possible. So I think if you're looking at a Verifind study, you can assume right out of the gate, if you did the simplest, smallest of study, you're probably looking at $1,800 US. Right out of the gate. And then based on the complexity, you would be looking at stacking on top of that. Some of the variable costs are travel, of course. So if you need one of us, so I'm essentially based in Toronto. So for me, flying from Toronto, if I was doing a study in Miami, for example, that's a 2-hour flight, multiple flights a day. It's not a huge impact from a cost perspective. Then I can fly home probably the same day. So there are some variables that will certainly have to kind of work into that. But if you can sort of go in with your head thinking that is probably going to be a baseline cost and it will sort of evolve from there, that would be a good place to start.
Certainly a much stronger offer than originally, obviously. I mean,
yes.
I know sort of 2 years ago, we were looking at 10 grand. Or something like that.
A lot more, actually. Yes, and I think, and that was a lot of why we retooled over this past year and a half, because that was the feedback that we were getting from people was the concept is amazing. We love it. We love it so much. We can't afford it. Because if we add Verifind into the cost of doing a wayfinding study for a client, there's no way we will not be competitive. So that was really important for us to be able to get Verifind to a place where we're competitive. But we've had such incredible support from our tech partner, Toby. Like, talk about fall into a situation where you have a partner that wants your absolute success. So they have really worked with us. They've offered up the research. They've done a lot for us to be able to build our KPIs the way that they are today, with information, et cetera, but also to helping us with the tech, to make sure that we're aligned with the right tech for the right job. And, we will still need Toby to sort of partner with us on some of the really large, complex situations. it probably will not be anywhere near the $1,800 baseline, but we've been fortunate to go back and be able to really retool our pricing over the course of time. So yeah, and now we feel like we are finally there. We're competitive. We can come out. We can be a real value add, because that's what we want to be. You know, we want to be able to add this. And again, the team of Verifind, we're not designers. We're not signage people. We're not wayfinding experts. We're data people. So we're going to be able to offer you the data. You're still the design expert. You're still face to face with the client. We're just adding you this really extra, you know, additional piece of information to make your design better. So it's also, we found our place too within the Verifind world. So we're excited.
Thank you.
Yes, Beth.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
We can.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much, Maria, Ethan, Christy, and all the team. Just to reiterate what Mark said, brilliant presentation. I learned a lot. Thank you for that. He's my amazing manager, so he's actually asked most of the questions I was going to ask. I do have one more, which was, do you have any case studies for any businesses that have basically said Modulex this has worked wonders for us, and we've, you know, something along the lines of that we could potentially give to future clients where it's worked?
Yeah, so we do. We definitely have some case studies that we can share with you. There is some confidentiality surrounding some of the case studies, just by the nature of where we've done the Verifind work. But Verifind we don't get credit for that. The designers get credit for it, because we're just helping them design a better outcome for wayfinding. So I don't think that you're ever going to see 5 stars for Verifind. And that's not really our goal. We want 5 stars for the wayfinding designer, 5 stars for the EGD consultancy agency that delivered a really great wayfinding experience. So that's we're kind of like the behind the scenes people that are like, we're your hype people behind trying to provide you the data to improve your life. So I don't know that you're going to see Verifind like as a specific outcome getting those types of reviews. The goal is that the designer gets those reviews. Does that make sense, Beth?
Yes, and I'll be
okay. Great.
But yes, thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're going to go to Amanda from Sweden.
Oh, don't forget Norway. And Norway again, yeah. And as you know, and my client here, I'm not going to name her, and thank you for being here. We just had a big implementation of a wayfinding strategy that is live today, and we were very successful using Modulex Wayfind it. So I was a bit curious to see, how does Verifind and Wayfind work together, and how can the client like see on the Wayfind it map where they stop? So could you just talk a little bit more about that? Because that would be very
absolutely. Ethan, did you want to take this one?
Yeah, sure. So one of the things that's really crucial to the Verifind study is we need the floor plans and the signage to see where everything is essentially for us and what kind of signs we're analyzing. So the good thing about it is if you are using Wayfind it, we can go in and use all that information, use the same signage codes, everything that you would use in your language, that when we do our calculations for our KPIs, we can clearly identify which signs they are and which ones are working and which ones are not based on the scores that we're providing. Maria and I were actually testing to see some other ways that we can implement it, but for now, that's probably the best way that we can use it, is we can go in, look at the information, download the Excel files, and then do the information, all the calculations, and then give it back to you so you know exactly which signs they are.
Oh, so I can see like this sign here is not working because, or so on. So it's really tied to Wayfind it in that way. And so
we would have to conduct the study first, of course, Amanda, but that's exactly the goal, is that we're able to use your existing project that you've set up in Wayfind it currently. We can go in and because it actually makes our lives easier, because then we know this is the journey that we have to create this particular scenario. So we're able to take those and add it to our own Wayfind it. So I think, for us, that's ideal. But we do need to do the study first before we can give you that information and connect the dots.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Manuel Botero from Colombia.
Hey there, Colombia/Miami.
Yes, true.
Kind of like my question is related to the previous question, because I just wanted to better understand. Because the way that I saw, like in the video, you see there are existing signs, right? but a lot of projects, or in our case, like a lot of the projects that we work on for Wayfinding are completely new projects. So it just becomes very tricky to see how this comes into the, I want to call it the preliminary phase, because it can always be done like in the end, and we can always challenge the result, right? Like as you mentioned. But I wonder like how that works. Like if we do the takeoff and we have kind of like the shop drawings, how does Verifind connects to something that isn't built yet, or like we only have shop drawings, so it just becomes like it I don't know. So it's kind of like I just want to understand how that works in the preliminary phase, or how you would be able to provide any input in a preliminary phase rather than just in the existing space.
Right. And the answer to that, Manuel, is it doesn't. So Verifind has to go in and audit what exists already. So that could potentially be phase two, but we just want to really launch phase one at this point. But we cannot, because again, we are data people. So we are basically collecting data and in some cases interpreting the data and providing the data to the wayfinding designers so they can start that process or edit or audit that process rather. So we can't just do a Verifind study based on plans, which doesn't exist. So Verifind comes in to an existing built environment to improve wayfinding, or if you're in a situation where an airport is doing a rebrand or, you know, a renovation, right, and they want to ensure that their wayfinding is you know the best it can be, that's where Verifind comes in. So we cannot use Verifind in a space that doesn't exist at this point.
And does it require signs? Like if I take you to a place that is like, let's say, a renovation that doesn't have any signs because it's completely being rebuilt, but it exists, and we only have the data on, let's say, Wayfinding, but it doesn't have any signs on site.
Well, it certainly could, because if we did a temporary sign sort of experiment, because a lot, and right, I know with your situation, you deal a lot with TCO. So if you're having a scenario by which you have temporary signage in just for TCO before you're able to, you know, implement the final signage, that's a perfect time to do it, because then we can come in and do that. If we are looking at our signage design plans, or our wayfinding plans rather, and you know, you as a designer, Manuel, because you would experience this all the time, if you're just, you know, I would like to test this, we could do a temporary, you know, implementation of temp signs. It could even be on paper for all that matter, to be able to go in and audit this. So as long as there's something in there for a person to navigate, when we say, this is the journey, this is where we want you to go, you have 30 seconds to get there, you're late for an appointment, we present the scenario to them, as long as they have a way to look at something and navigate, and you want to do mock-ups of a temporary signage prior to the implementation, we can certainly do it that way too. There just needs to be something for the individual to see.
Okay. So at least temps, like at least mock-ups or whatever. Got it.
Right, exactly.
And then I'll let you go.
Oh, and I was just going to say, in the case of if you don't use Wayfind or Sign Agent, that's fine too. Because what happens is we can go into work with the client, and the client says, okay, this is the journey that we expect them to take. So shows us along the routes. Well, what we do is we take pictures of every single one of those signs along that route that the expectation is that the person navigating that space is expected to see. So that's when we say, okay, this is the route. These are all of the things that they're supposed to be identifying to get them to their final destination. So then we understand the route and we're measuring against that. Right. So the client says they should be seeing these 8 signs prior to getting to the final destination, but they're just not getting there. I don't understand. They're turning left when they should turn right. So we take pictures of all of those signs, and that becomes part of the journey. So that becomes part of our KPIs.
Got it. Okay. I did have one final question, if I can go. It's regarding like our benchmark. Like, I just wonder, like, there are like these companies that are like super specialized in wayfinding. Just to come to mind, like RSM, 212, like those big companies that are like super specialized in like airports and really designing wayfinding, right? do they have anything like this? Do we know if like, but not only those companies, I mean like other, like, do we know if our competitors, like, is this something that is growing in our industry, or are basically we the pioneers and the only ones that have this service?
So it would be difficult for me to say because from my limited experience, I believe we are the only signage company that has come out with this. Now, there are iterations of it though. There's people that use Apple glasses. There are people that, are trying to use eye tracking within this. But I think, we've been at it for 2 years now, and we've been working with the global leader on eye tracking, which is Tobii. It's not Apple. It's not, all of it. It's Tobii, a Swedish-based company that's been doing this for 20 years. So I think others will probably develop this, but we're essentially 2 years ahead. They're going to experience the same, probably the complications that we had, the cost analysis of it, being able to make this a commercially viable opportunity for people. Also to things like the KPIs, like where do they come from? So, this took years of development. So maybe there's somebody out there that has the interest and the effort to do this, but we have not run into them quite yet. So not to say they don't exist, we just haven't run into them yet.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions? Before you leave, Ethan is going to be putting in the chat, or maybe he already has. We have just a 4-page brochure on Verifind, just a small salesy piece that you can use in the meantime. We do have a section on our website. So if you go to modulex.com and if you go to our services, you'll find out more information about Verifind, and that's where we'll include all of the sources for the information that we cited early in our presentation. But before we wrap it up, I just want to put it out to everyone again. Any last questions? Okay. Thank you so much for attending today. We really appreciate it, and I sincerely hope we have a conversation soon. I would love to come out with the Verifind team and help you with your wayfinding studies. So any questions at all, feel free to reach out. You have all of our contacts in the meeting, and if you want a recording of this webinar, just reach out. We're happy to provide that to you as well. So thank you again, and we will talk to you real soon. Bye for now.